Hey guys, Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist here in the free world in Eastern Europe with yet another regulation fail that is going to leave a lot of investors holding the bag. Earlier, we saw and we talked about New York banning Airbnb and the negative impact that would have on not only tenants who wanted to go on vacation and make a few bucks renting out their room, stuff like that, but also on people visiting the city. And so earlier this year, Berlin did the same, and now we have some information on the fallout from what's happening. And basically, that fallout is a lot of Airbnb units coming off the market, and a lot of people paying more money to visit Berlin as a result. So there were, they threw around numbers like 14,000 Airbnb units in Berlin that government officials said could have been back in the rental pool, and that locals were paying too much to rent an apartment in Berlin because people were coming in and buying up or renting and then subletting these apartments on Airbnb. And there's a lot more money in doing that. And the government said, no, we can't have that. We're going to ban it. And there's fines up to six figures, low six figures, for doing it. And so you get a warning and then you get a second warning. But if you keep getting warnings, it's going to add up to a very expensive price. And so we can talk about the public policy issues of this some other time, but the real issue here for me is if you're an investor in this yield-starved world, if you've got some money in the bank from a business, from whatever it is, and you're trying to make a few bucks, you're trying to get some passive income to live on, maybe you sold your business and you want to live off that income, maybe you have a business and you're just trying to supplement, save for the future, augment your income, etc. Airbnb has been one of the decent ways to do that. Now, it's become even easier lately with the ability to add a co-host to where you don't even have to do all the work. So the hard work has been taken out of the equation. Well, the new hard work is dealing with the government, because New York and Berlin and many of these other cities don't want Airbnb to be operating in their city. Spain, Barcelona is another huge offender. People are turning in their neighbors to Airbnb or turning them into the police for using Airbnb all the time. So for those of us who just want to make a yield, we don't want to go and make 4% or 5% owning property in Western Europe. That's not going to work for us. We want to make bigger returns, double-digit returns. Well, unfortunately, not only have these governments suppressed yields and suppressed rates to where you can't really make any money in many other markets, even when you do make money, they tax the hell out of you. Now they're coming and saying, we're just going to kill this business category and nothing you can do about it. So if you bought property in Berlin, if you bought property in New York for the purpose of short-term leases, you're basically screwed. And you have to now go back to getting the 4% because the government said so. So, of course, they have a solution for this. And the solution is get out of the high-tax Western markets. I'm in Eastern Europe right now. What I call the free world, right? Asia, Eastern Europe. These are the places where we want to be. Central and South America in some cases. Obviously, not all these countries are perfect. But I'll tell you what, I see a lot more pro-business, pro-investor sentiment in these countries. In countries like Georgia, the Balkans, much of Central America, even parts of Colombia, other parts of South America. Most of Asia doesn't particularly care about Airbnbs. In Thailand, for example, you can't even get a tax ID number if you're not a permanent resident in order to pay tax on your Airbnbs. So, if you're buying property in the Western world for Airbnb, I know that there's some people, and I've worked with some people who have done this in the U.S. where they buy up cheap properties in Vegas and they rent them out. To me, it's so saturated. And for those who are doing well with it, I commend you because it's such a saturated market. And everyone really knows what they're doing there, I think. If you want a lot less competition, if you want a lot less regulation, if you want a lot less hassle, if you want a lot lower taxes on any income that you do earn, you got to go to a country where those are the values. Germany ain't one of those, quite frankly. And I think we'll see a lot more of this in Europe, the way we've seen this happen to Uber, where Uber gets kicked out, people freak out, because the taxi companies are small fry with Uber compared to the hotel industry with Airbnb. I think the hotels probably have a lot more money, especially when you bring in the big international chains who can throw their weight behind it. I think you're going to see this happen more and more in Europe, and I think you're not going to see it happen so much in the emerging world countries where, quite frankly, supply is not that great. I talked recently about how I was in Montenegro, and there are like 2, maybe 3 5-star hotels, true 5-star hotels in Montenegro, and even they're not like amazing. And then you go on Airbnb and you see the ugliest. I mean, most of them are just horrible, and it's just not well laid out. It's not thoughtful, and there's no competition. And you can go and do very well, and then you can pay 9% tax. They're not, hassling you. They realize, especially in many parts of Montenegro and many of these other countries, they realize tourism is a part of the economy. They don't want to get rid of you. So it's a lot easier place to do business. And if you're an investor and you're seeking yields on residential real estate, Airbnb has been a place that for 3 or 4 years now I've said I'm not a big fan of as a guest, am a decent fan of as a way to run a side business or make some passive income now. But you got to go to a place where you're welcome. It's the 5 magic words, as always. Go where you're treated best. And if you're doing Airbnb and you're doing something that spits in the face of the hotel lobby, the US, Canada, parts of Europe, if you're in the big cities, probably not the place for you.